How do all, and welcome to episode 3. Oh, we're really in the roll of things now. So, yeah, let's go. Things you should watch during quarantine. Listen to the Drummer, episode 3. I'm going to play the theme tune now because it's fun. Back with episode 3. Exciting. So my plan originally was to finish the book I was reading and review that, but I'm like the slowest reader in the world, so I've still got like 170 pages left. It is the first Game of Thrones book though. Well, coincidentally titled Game of Thrones. I will review that when I have finished it, I promise. It's just so long. It's so long. So yeah, we're not doing that this week. This week, since we're all stuck inside, for the most part, we are going to talk about some of the my top picks that are on the streaming services right now. I'm going to give you a handful of TV shows and a lot more films that you should watch because, in my opinion, these are great. Everything on this list, I'm going to give them all scores, but everything on this list is an 8 out of 10 or above. So it's, in my eyes, it's great or excellent or perfect in some cases. I've not included everything that's on these sites that I love because there's a lot. For example, in TV shows, I'm not going to talk that much about Breaking Bad because, well, two reasons. One, because I'm rewatching it currently, so I'm going to do a full show review when I finish rewatching it. And secondly, because it's one of the big names on Netflix. I'm trying to mix in some stuff that you guys might not have heard of. So shine some light on shows like that. And just, yeah, that reason as well. With the films as well. There's a lot of films on these sites that are great. But I've just picked a select few. And depending what gets added and removed, we might do an episode like this in the future. Hopefully it won't be quarantine themed though. It'll just be what stuff you should watch on Netflix. But yeah, we've got less TV shows than films because obviously watching a TV show is like a bigger like task than it is to watch a film. So we've only got a handful of TV shows here that you should watch, but I'm still going to talk about them. Still going to go into a bit of detail about them, give them a score. So first of all, I'm going to talk about Avatar: The Last Airbender. I'm not going to go too much into this one because I'm currently rewatching it because I want to do a full episode dedicated to the show because in my eyes it's a 10. It's perfect. It's probably the best animated show ever in my opinion. It's awesome. It slaps. The characters are good. It's so well written. Mid 2000s for Nickelodeon to come up with a cartoon like this, it's just unheard of. When they were dropping like SpongeBob at the same time, which is fucking hilarious, but it's not as like emotionally like testing and powerful as his Avatar is. But yeah, if you haven't watched it, please go watch it. It's all on Netflix and it's amazing. But like I said, I will talk about that more in a separate podcast. Same with Breaking Bad. But yeah, onto the other shows which I have on this list. We have House or House MD, which is all on Amazon Prime, or at least most of it's on Amazon Prime. Either way, it's the start is the best bit anyway. This show, in my eyes, is a lot different to the other shows that it falls in the same genre as. So, like, you could class it as the same genre as, like, ER or, like, Grey's Anatomy or something like that. But in my eyes, this show is superior to all of them in the sense of it doesn't feel like a soap opera based in a hospital. It's like Hugh Laurie is stupidly good in this show. It's really well written. The characters are really like just interesting and likable. And yeah, House's story is just, as in the character, like him, is just really interesting. You kind of get like this like detective-y kind of gristly vibe from him. But yeah, it's a really interesting and intriguing show to watch, and I would really quite like to watch it again. Actually, I've only watched it through once, but it was good. It was a solid show. A lot better than I thought it was gonna be when I started watching it with my parents back in like 2015 or something. But yeah, good show. 9 out of 10. The only criticism I have of it is sometimes it does fall into the generic trap, but like only in the last season, and there was a few episodes that were getting a little bit far-fetched, and then they stopped. So it still went out on a high, and if it had gone on for a few seasons more, then it probably would have slipped lower in the ratings. But 8 seasons, still quite a lot. That's borderline for me, to be honest. Next, Money Heist, or if you're from Spain, La Casa de Papel, as it is also known. This show slaps, man. It's so good. It's. I didn't think it was going to be this good when I started. It looks really generic from the posters. It looks so meh. But I've watched the first 2 seasons. I'm currently in the midst of watching it. But seasons, I wouldn't put it on this list for the sense that I haven't finished it. But seasons 1 and 2 are a different story to what seasons 3 and 4, and the upcoming season 5 is a continuation of the 3 and 4 story. I mean, they're all the same characters, but season 1 and 2 is a different. Like, that's like its own thing. It feels like its own show. I'll probably come back to this when I've caught up to date on it, because I want to talk about it as a whole, because I think it is one of the more interesting shows that's on at the moment. But seasons 1 and 2 were so good. Especially season 2. Oh man, what a shit. Like, oh, I was hooked. I could not stop watching it. It's so intense. Whew. Good show. 9 out of 10. The only reason I haven't given it a 10 out of 10 is because season 2 isn't the end, and I feel it should have ended there. I know that 3 and 4 is a different story, but I feel like that's where these characters should have stopped. And the fact, watching it and knowing that there's more, kind of sucks. So yeah, but seasons 1 and 2, oh man, if you just watch seasons 1 and 2 and like kind of done what I've done and just been like, oh, that's it for me now, I'm done, well, it's just a really great 2 seasons of television. So it's kind of like when people hate on the last season of Game of Thrones. Like, you can stop before then. If I'm telling you now, you can stop you can if new time watchers of Game of Thrones, if you've never seen it, watch up to the first half of halfway through season 8. Just stop there, and then it's good. It's fine. Yeah, but that is a whole other episode. What next have we got on the TV show recommendations? We've got One Punch Man. Oh, I was supposed to mention that Money Heist was also on Netflix as well, and One Punch Man is also on Netflix. Well, season 1 is. Season 2 is on a website called Crunchyroll, where you can just watch loads of anime for free. So it's even better in a way. You could just not have Netflix and still watch this. Anime kind of feels like a whole different art form from TV shows in itself. But this show, I've put it on this list because it's a perfect anime to watch while you have the time to watch it, because it's not that long, and it's great to watch if you've not watched anime before, because it's just so funny. It's so funny. I didn't even say what the other shows were about. That's just crossed my mind. But yeah, just quickly. Avatar, just watch it. It's amazing. House is about, obviously, a doctor. Money Heist is about robbing the Mint of Spain. All in Spanish. And yeah, back on track. One Punch Man is about a superhero who can kill everything with one punch. It's just such a stupid concept for something, but it's so funny. Like, it'll take the trends of superhero movies and have like these big build-ups to fights, and then he just comes in and just punches them, and it's done, and it's so well done, and it also. It's also really intriguing. Like, the other characters are really cool as well. There's this one superhero he's just like a man who rides a bike, and he's so funny. It's a really good show, and if you haven't seen it, I would. And if you've just strayed away from anime because it's just not your scene, even if you just watch this one and you don't get into anime, I reckon you'll still enjoy it. Even if you just watch season 1 because season 2 isn't dubbed, so that's why it's not on Netflix. But you can just watch it with English audio and you can just have a good time. You can watch 13 really good episodes, and the opening theme is awesome. And then the last TV show that I'm going to recommend is Bojack Horseman. This show, in my opinion, probably one of the biggest hot takes coming. I think it's Netflix's best original. Like, I think it's better than Stranger Things. I think it's better than Money Heist. I think it's better than what other shows are Netflix originals? I can't think of any now. Those are the only ones that have come to mind, the big ones. But yeah, I think BoJack's better than all of them. Honestly, it's so funny. It's funny. It's sad. It's so well written. It's clever. You know those episodes of Rick and Morty where you're like, oh, I felt that. Like, that got me right there. That is this show from seasons 2 to the end. It's just, it's so good. Season 1 is still good, but it's just a comedy until like the last few episodes, and then season 2 onwards, get ready to cry, man. It's awesome. 10 out of 10 in my opinion. Yeah, One Punch Man. I'm gonna give it a 9 as well, just because. No, I'm gonna give it a 10. It's hilarious. And yeah, BoJack 10. Sorry, we keep jumping back. We just got a lot to get through, so yeah, let's keep going. But yeah, the one thing about BoJack that I just want to say before we move on to films is I think it will be in line for. It'll definitely be nominated for one of the best shows of this year when I eventually do my end of year awards. Just because the last half of the last season came out this year, so it's still gonna get nominated. I don't care, because honestly, the end is so good. Like, it's so good. I don't want to spoil it, but watch it. I think out of all the TV shows I mentioned, that is probably the one that most people will like on this list. That's probably the one that most people who I am trying to pitch to out of like my mates, that's probably the one that most people would like. But I think Avatar is also a necessity, and the others are just really good as well. They're all really good shows. That's why they're on this list. And if you have Prime on Netflix, you should watch one of them and waste hours of your time, but not wasting them because you're having fun. Right, let's talk films. We've got quite a few films to get through, so that's why this podcast is probably going to be a bit longer than the other two, because I've got quite a few films to get through, because there's a lot of good films on Netflix, as it turns out, and I would like to give you quite a few recommendations. Yeah, as I just said, all of these films are on Netflix. They're all a minimum of 8 out of 10 or above. I'll go through the scores as we go. And yeah, let's go. Number 1, The Irishman. This came out last year. Or was it earlier this year? I think it was last year. Yeah. And honestly, one of my favourite films of last year. If not, maybe my favourite. Maybe. It's tough. But yeah, that was a really good film. The greats are all back for this one. De Niro, Pacino, Pesci, Scorsese's back, directing. Oh, it's so good. I mean, I know there's been like a million gangster films, but Scorsese's a genius, man. He just knows how to make a good film. And I've given this movie a 10 just because I think this is peak storytelling. You just go through De Niro, like, he's the main character, just him going through his life, just working up the mob ranks. And It's 3.5 hours long. If you don't like long, slow films, this might not be for you. But to me, this film was just perfect. It's so well acted. It's just, I love gangster films and I love the classics. And yeah, if you love the classics, if you love The Godfather, if you love Goodfellas, you should watch this film. It's awesome. It's so good. I can understand why it didn't win anything at the Oscars. There was the Oscars that's just been has had a lot of, it was a lot of tough competition this year. It was a really good selection, and obviously, sadly, this didn't get any of the big boys, big wins. But well, I don't know if I could pick De Niro or Pesci over Joaquin Phoenix for Joker. So, I mean, we'll see what my take might have been when we get further down this list. Anyway, but yeah, 10 out of 10. Irishman, go watch it. Next on the list, we have Prisoners. This is probably because obviously The Irishman was a Netflix original, so that's kind of a big film on Netflix. This one, you might have to scroll a bit. It is solid though. It's directed by Denis Villeneuve. I can never pronounce his name. And honestly, he is a name to watch, man. He directed this and Arrival in the same decade, and Blade Runner 2049, which I've not seen yet, but I plan to watch that in the next week. All of which have been like critically acclaimed. Arrival and Prisoners definitely so, but I think Prisoners is better than Arrival just because it's so gripping, it's so emotionally testing, it's brutal in places. The casting is so good, like Hugh Jackman as the main character and Jake Gyllenhaal beside. They have such a good on-screen dynamic together. And the whole concept of this film is basically Hugh Jackman's daughter and their neighbor, like their neighbor's daughter, they both get kidnapped, and it's just them trying to find them. And Paul Dano's also in this film, who always plays like really weird characters, but oh man, it's a really good film. Yeah, it's really good, and I will put money that Dennis, I'm just gonna call him Dennis because I can't pronounce his surname. I'm gonna put money that he's gonna win an Oscar in the next decade, because if there's any actor that's up and coming, or director even, it's him. Yeah, watch this film. It's good. It's really good. Next, we have Superbad, and I appreciate that a lot of people have probably already seen this film. It's been about since 2007, but it's just one of the funniest films I've ever seen. It's so good. It's definitely the best film to come out of that kind of era of mid-2000 kind of like millennial comedy, kind of raunchy kind of thing, like Knocked Up and 40-Year-Old Virgin. And I think this is better than all of those films by a mile. It's so good. It's so simple. It's just about three guys, two of them being Jonah Hill and Michael Cera, and then you've got McLovin. I can't even remember the actor's name. He will always just be McLovin now. That's how iconic this film is. Yeah, it's so good. It's so well written. You've also got Seth Rogen in it as well, along with Bill Hader as the two cops. They're amazing. It's just about them trying to get, like, the three kids, like Seth Rogen and co, just trying to get, essentially just trying to have sex and get alcohol to the end of year party. But it's kind of sad as well. It really hits home. It's like them going through the inevitability of them hanging out so much, but then they know that they're not gonna see each other because they're going to separate unis. And it honestly, the ending's really interesting for a comedy film. The cosmonaut, I can't remember the full name of his channel. If you just search Cosmonaut, you'll find him. He does a really good review on this film, and I'd watch that, because if you're more interested in learning about this film before you watch it, if this wasn't enough to convince you, go watch that video and you'll watch it. But yeah, solid film. 9 out of 10, coincidentally. Same as Prisoners. Both really good. Both excellent. Amazing films. By the way, the only reason I would give a film a 9 instead of a 10 is just 10 is what I'd consider to be like perfection. Like, I would change nothing about it. Not like I'd change much about a 9 out of 10, but like, if someone asked me to be like, what's your favourite film, like straight off the bat, it'll be the 10 out of 10s that would come into my brain first. So, yeah. Speaking of 10 out of 10s, we got our next one on the list, Goodfellas. This came onto Netflix recently, and I haven't heard a lot of my mates talking about it or anything. So, here I am, preaching to the world for people who haven't seen Goodfellas to frickin' watch Goodfellas. It's really good. It's a classic. It's Scorsese again. De Niro, Pesci, Ray Liotta is the main character. It's really good. He never really did anything other than this, but this film's awesome. And yeah, there's not much to say about this film. It's it's some of the best actors in the world at the peak of their time. Gangster films don't really get much better than this. And for a film that's nearly 3 hours long, it's just pure entertainment. It just never stops. And it's just this criminal fantasy, and there's no way that you watch this film and then don't want to be a gangster afterwards. It's just like so cool. All the suits and the shootouts and pew pew pew. It's great. Watch it. It's awesome. But yeah, that's a 10. And here we have another 10 out of 10 with The Social Network. Tarantino just recently claimed that this was his pick for the best film of the past decade. And honestly, I'd probably put it in my top 5 of the past decade. It's so good. So well acted. David Fincher is such a good director. He never really gets the praise that he deserves, to be honest. He's written so many... He's done so many great films, and this is just another one to add to his collection. Grievous walks in. But yeah, it's awesome. I love this film. Jesse Eisenberg probably should have got an Oscar for this film. Andrew Garfield proves that he is an amazing actor. He's not just a rubbish Spider-Man. Justin Timberlake proves he can act really well. There's a lot of strengths in this film. No weaknesses, in my opinion. It's great. It's how, just about the creation of Facebook, if you couldn't tell from the title. And yeah, criminally ignored at the Oscars. And I mean criminally. Such a good film. And Trent Reznor from Nine Inch Nails does the score. It's just such a good film. I can understand why Quentin's put that as his favourite of the decade. I'm definitely putting it in my top 5, for sure. Speaking of best films of the decade, we've got another 10, another one of the greats, and another one of the best films of the past decade with Inception. Chris Nolan, man. What a guy. For a good while, he was my favourite director. And then I started to watch Tarantino films and David Fincher's films, and it got a whole lot harder, but he's definitely up there, Chris Nolan. His films are just so freaking mental. They're proper West sometimes, man, but I love them. Inception, 10 out of 10. Amazing, unique, original story. I've never seen a film that looks like this film. The effects are ridiculous. It's so well acted. The cast on this film. I'm just gonna read off the main cast. DiCaprio, Joseph Gordon-Levitt, Ellen Page, Michael Caine, Tom Hardy. So many big names. Guy from Peaky Blinders. I can't remember his name now. Damn it, that's going to really annoy me. Main guy, Thomas Shelby from Peaky Blinders. Yeah, it's a great film, and it's awesome. It's so good. I've watched it like 5 times, and I love it every single time. It was my favourite film for a bit. I don't know if it is now, but for a time, when I first got out of my like fantasy Star Wars and Lord of the Rings phase, I moved to watch more like cinematic, more kind of like films, like films, like the theater. This was probably one of my favorite films at the time. I became more of a snob. That's what I'm looking for. Yeah, it's an awesome film. If you haven't seen it, please go watch it. It's a classic. It will go down as one of the best films. Visually, if anything. And another film that, in my opinion, didn't get the attention that it deserved at the Oscars. But it's hard for summer blockbusters to win those awards. But they do get the money, so Nolan just knows what he's about, man. Next, another film that I think was a little bit underrated at the Oscars was Ex Machina. This film's fucking awesome. It has like the total cast list is like 4 actors, but it's mint. It's damn, I forgot to been saying what things are about. I mean, Inception. I'm not even gonna try and say what that's about. It's about like dreams and stuff, and planting things in dreams and going in people's heads. But Ex Machina, the whole concept for that is essentially like going into like, it's this test where this millionaire invites someone from his company, like one of his workers. He wins a competition to come to his house, and he wants him to take this AI test, like to test his new AI on the guy that's won the competition. General Hux is in it, and so is Poe. It's like 2 of the 3 main characters are future Star Wars boys, so you gotta love them. And then the AI is Alice Vikander, who's so good in this film. She's amazing in this film. She plays the AI, and basically the test is that the AI will pass the test if the human doesn't know they're talking to an AI. Oh, man, this film creeps me out. It scares me more than nearly all of the horror films I've ever watched, ever have. And that's the sign of a good, like, thriller. It's just so gripping. It's very enclosed, and it's claustrophobic, but in all the best ways. I think it's one of the best films that was released this decade. A 10 out of 10. I would highly recommend watching this film. It's one of the deep cuts in Netflix. You have to scroll a little bit, but so good, man. Awesome. Freaking love that film. Next, we've got another Chris Nolan's back on the list, back in the game, with his most recent film, up until when Tenet comes out in July, which I hope I can go see because I'm excited for that, is Dunkirk. Yeah, true story. Not really like anything Nolan's done before. Yeah, this film's production value is insane. It looks ridiculous, man. It's great. He proves once again, Nolan's just like, I'm just a great actor. I'm just gonna make this freaking film because I can do what I want, and it's great. It's a good story. It's just really well done. The film looks amazing. The only reason it's not a 10 is because there's a lot of characters. And because it's a war film, it doesn't need to have an intense amount of characterization because the characters are not what it's about. It's about the situation. It's about the story. It's about the rescue. It's about the mission. It's not about them as people. But if we just got that little bit more characterization, this film would have been a 10, in my opinion. Because I think that's what makes you, if you understand someone, you feel their feelings so much more. But like I say, this film isn't integral on characterization. Something like, and that's why prequels Anakin sucks, because his character is really bad and you just don't feel his anger. You just don't get it. You don't feel it. But yeah, that's a whole other episode. 9 out of 10, excellent film. I would highly recommend it, especially if you like war films. It's a bit different to most war films. But yeah, watch it. It's good. Next on the list, we have Spirited Away. Oh my god, this film is so good. 10 out of 10. One of the best animated films ever made. Studio Ghibli give Pixar a run for their money. It's beautiful. It is beautiful in nearly every way. It's essentially, imagine Alice in Wonderland, but better and based in Japan. It's kind of got that vibe of this girl just falling and ending up in this place where it's just magical and I don't even want to give away too much. It's just an adventure that's unlike a lot of films I've ever seen or ever will see. And Studio Ghibli rule. If you haven't seen any of their films, this is a really good one to start off with. I wouldn't. A lot of people say it's the best, and to be fair, it probably is. But it is just great. It's awesome. Watch it. Just do it. 10 out of 10. Awesome. Yeah. Next on our list, we're in the last 3 now. So yeah, get your Netflix watch lists filled up. Is Marriage Story. Another film that came from the last Oscars. Well, that was nominated at the most recent ones. It was a Netflix original released last year. It was one of my favourite films of the year. 9 out of 10. And it's so freaking emotional. It's just a story of, contrary to the title, is this couple, Adam Driver and Scarlett Johansson, getting a divorce and everything that goes with it. And it's so freaking sad. It's just a divorce on screen. It's a family being torn apart from the inside, and you're watching it, and you just can't believe what you're watching half the time. And they have a kid, and it's just, it's so damn sad. Yeah, I love this film. The acting and writing are stupidly good, and Adam Driver, man, if he doesn't win an Oscar at some point in his career, I'm lost for words. In my head, I think he was my pick for Best Actor. I think he was better than Joaquin Phoenix. Honestly, Phoenix had it in the bag as soon as he dropped Joker. The Academy loves really eccentric performances, but they'll never go for something that's just so down to earth, so realistic. You feel all that he's going through, the pain that transfers through his freaking eyes, man, as you're watching this film. God damn, I freaking love this film, and I love Adam Driver as an actor. And if you've just seen him in Star Wars and you've just seen him as Kylo Ren, and you're like, yeah, he's all right, freaking watch this film and tell me that he's not one of the best young actors at the moment. Marriage Story is great. Scarlett Johansson's also great. So it's a 9 out of 10. I can't think of a reason right now why it's not a 10. Maybe because Adam Driver's not in every scene. But yeah, it's awesome. The scene where they fight as well. Yeah, well, there's multiple scenes where they fight, but if you watch it, you'll know. It's beautiful. Next, we've got Peter Jackson's King Kong, like his adaptation of the classic film King Kong. Peter Jackson will always have his place in my heart because he directed my favourite trilogy ever, which is Lord of the Rings. Which Return of the King, I'd argue, is probably my favourite film of all time. And he did this like a few years after, so I watched it when it came, as soon as it came out, obviously. It's a great adaptation of a cool story. It's just really fun, to be honest. It's not a perfect film. It's an 8 out of 10 in my opinion. It's great. It's just really fun. Like, good actors. Jack Black's in it. I mean, I love seeing Jack Black do serious stuff because he's a good actor. I just like seeing him do those things because he's a really good actor, and I feel like he doesn't get the praise he deserves from his comedy films. So I like seeing him in stuff like this. Adrian Brody, what a man. He's such a good actor, and yeah. If anyone hasn't seen him, just like Google him. He's so stereotypically gorgeous that it's just funny. But yeah. It's the only problem I have with it, which it is kind of a big problem, is it's a little bit too long. It's 3 hours and 7 minutes. And I don't think King Kong which is a pretty simple concept for a film. They go over to film a movie there, and then they find a giant gorilla, and then yeah. But it's still great. Peter Jackson knows what he's doing, man. He's a good director. He's got it in the bag. And the last one on our list is kind of relevant for everything that's going on right now in the world, and it's a crazy place. It's Straight Outta Compton. This film is really good. It's a 9 out of 10. I'd be quite even tempted to give it a 10. I think my only criticism of it is it does go on a bit, but not that much. It's pretty awesome. It's just a story. It's just the story of NWA, the rap group, and it's so good. Their story's so interesting, and what they stood for as well. Great group, great music, great film, great message. Yeah, another film, in my opinion, that was just criminally underappreciated at the Oscars. I mean, the writing in this film, and I think that got a mention, but the directing didn't even get a nomination, man. All of the films that I've said have been criminally underrated. I think Ex Machina is the same. Didn't even get a directing nomination. I mean, come on, they're like some of the best films that have dropped this year. I mean, for those to be nominated, but for Daniel Day-Lewis to have won it like that many times, and for Joaquin Phoenix to have just won it when he's done stupidly good performances before is, I don't know, only one person can win it every year. I'm just salty. But yeah, Straight Outta Compton, another great film to end this list on. Please go watch it because it's awesome. It's another deep cut in Netflix as well. But yeah, that concludes our list of what I think you should watch during quarantine, and that's why this podcast is nearly 40 minutes long, because I came up with a lot of things. I was going to do music as well, and then I came up with how many things I've got, and I was like, no, that's enough time. Quarantine is hopefully it's not going to go on for more recommendations, but yeah. Watch all these. I'm going to put them in the description below, because I'm that keen on you watching these things, and I'm just a big believer that you should watch them. I'll put the scores down below as well, so if you want to watch one of the ones that's a 10 and think yeah and all that jazz. But yeah, next week is Rick and Morty season 4, big review, season review. Who's excited? I am, because apparently the last episode is really good. So yeah. And I've really enjoyed this season so far. I mean, there hasn't been a bad episode of Rick and Morty, so who cares? That review is going to be fun. I am going to go through every episode in detail, and it's going to be great. Well, not every episode in detail, but yeah, you get the idea. But yeah, I think that concludes our podcast, and it's the longest one so far. So yeah, like the pages, subscribe to the channel, click the bell as well if you want to know. If you want to get notifications, and hopefully the 2 episodes a week will start soon. I'm kind of in the midst of moving, so gonna try and figure that out. I might try and do an episode this weekend about something. Maybe even the Rick and Morty one could come out earlier, and then next week can be something else. We'll see. But yeah, thanks for watching, guys, if you made it this far. But yeah, cheers. Listen to the drummer, subscribe, follow the socials.